Get over here!
Teacher, which is the greatest commandment of the law? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. All the law of the prophets hang on these two commandments. Buenos dias, damas y caballeros, and welcome to episode 9 of Let's Play Blasphemous 2. In the last episode, we went ahead and did our business over at the Crown of Towers. We defeated another boss, and that has now elevated us to the elevated temples, where we're going to start heading towards one of the bigger objectives in the game. So yeah, got a bit of a special episode, going on today. First of all, I want to say, from the Green Scorpion to everyone in the audience, Happy Pride Month. Be proud, be yourself, and accept yourself for who you are, and everyone else should accept you for who you are. And to kind of, celebrate this occasion, I have a guest with me.
Hey!
How's it going? It's been a while since you've been here, Gage.
It has. Hi. I am here because we are here talking about Pride and Pride Month.
Which, is, a very, very important topic. Like, as you might expect, we do, like, the two of us have, a lot to say about this. Yeah. I've actually been wanting to do an episode about Pride and Pride Month, like, for a while. But, I also recognize that I may not be the best authority when it comes to such things, because, I'm straight as an arrow. Okay, I gotta remember how to play this game.
We'll let you get oriented on that for a minute.
No, you're good. Because, yeah, this game is hard.
Oh, yeah. I'm not really sure how you're able to talk about, the gospel while doing it. I think that's kind of an impressive feat.
Thank you. You're not the first to say so. I'm actually gonna go back and, like, heal up again. I know those enemies are gonna respawn, but, like, yeah. I don't want to waste a flask, like, right away. But that is actually part of the reason why you're here.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna help me, talk about, our, topic for today, which is just the general topic of Pride Month, the LGBT community, and how that relates to the general Christian rhetoric, which, quite frankly, is very skewed nowadays, and that's coming from me. Like, it's always been skewed, mind you, but I still feel like it's something that should be discussed, because, like, there's way too much stigma around it, in regards to, like, how it relates to Christianity and Christian values, and it really shouldn't.
Yeah. So for those of you who are watching who may or may not be familiar with me, hi, I'm Gage. I'm Oscar's friend. I've been on the channel a few times. If you're following along with Project Isekai, I'm the artist who's doing all of the current character artwork for Project Isekai. I'm also trans. Hi.
Yes.
I am transmasculine. My pronouns are he and they. I am working on, HRT, all that fun stuff that comes with being trans. So, that is why I'm here. A shocking amount of people who are aware of me actually, don't fully know that I'm transmasculine, even though I'm pretty open about it, and I discuss it pretty frequently. But, so that's why I'm here, especially, to talk about, how a lot of, especially in 2024, how differently the LGBT community has, the public opinion has shifted a lot. In some directions, it's been incredibly positive, and in other directions, it's been completely diametrically opposed.
Yeah.
Very, very, very different, and not at all good. So, yeah, that's what we're here to talk about a little bit today.
Yeah, and, from the general, just the general idea when it comes to Christianity, right?
Yes.
Is that, like, a lot of, like, classic Christian rhetoric is that homosexuality or any sort of, like, transgenderness or, like, any queerness, for lack of a better term, right?
Deviation from the norm.
Yes, is considered a sin, which really shouldn't be the case. Because, like, even if, like, for one thing, like, you guys saw the verse at the beginning, and it's from Matthew, and it is a verse very, very popular, that, honestly, like, I feel more and more people have been ignoring, if I'm being honest, and it is the rhetoric of, like, love thy neighbor as yourself. And really, we should be following that a lot more because, you know, loving thy neighbor as yourself, it means, like, I mentioned this before, but one of my favorite, like, memes is, like, Jesus said, love thy neighbor as yourself. And then one guy is like, well, what if they're this? What if they're that? Did I stutter? And honestly, like, Jesus didn't stutter.
No,
like, he legit said, at the Sermon on the Mount, mind you, as well as, like, preaching to the people, that you should love thy neighbor as yourself. And I'm gonna get into, like, a little more detail in a moment, because we picked up a rosary bead.
Ooh.
Votive offering of the miserable slightly increases resistance to all elemental damage. Silver offering in exchange for the health of an eye that caught a glimpse of something too big and too old. The blind man never regained his sight, but this votive offering is still imbued with his prayers. What do I have in terms of beads that I have equipped? Let's see. The embossed rat skull significantly increases martyrdom. Price of blood increases tears of atonement. Votive offering of the hopeful mother increases resistance to all elemental damage. Which, oh, okay. So the votive offering of the miserable is basically just a weaker version of the hopeful mother. So I'm just gonna go ahead and stick with this.
Ow.
Yeah, no, this game is this game's tough.
I'm terrible at roguelites and roguelikes, so...
Well, this is a Metroidvania.
Yeah, same. I'm terrible at those too.
But, yeah. So, that verse from Matthew, and, like, plenty of other verses in the Bible, emphasize the idea of loving thy neighbor as yourself. And a lot of those also say, love thine enemy, which, is something I've actually covered in a previous episode. Mm-hmm. And, like... When Jesus says love thine enemy, he's not saying that you should, like, you know, accept everything that they are, because, like, there are some legitimately terrible people out there. Like, obviously you shouldn't love people who bully you, people who wrong you, people who betray you, obviously. Does that equate to someone being, like, trans or, like, gay or what have you, just because they don't follow the same rhetoric that you do? No. That is not the equivalent whatsoever. Yeah. But even if that were the case, even if it is enough for these, you to consider these people your enemy, may I reiterate, love thine enemy. Love your neighbor as yourself, no matter who they are. And, like, at that point, it's just a matter of respect, you know? And I think that's the main, aspect that a lot of people tend to, like, forget, is that, like, you know, at the end of the day, guys, just don't be a dick. Yeah. That's really the long and short of it. And that includes respecting the, like, people who are different from you for those differences, whether it's race, whether it's gender, whether it's if they're a part of the LGBT community or not. And you've gone through some issues with that, from what I'm to understand. Yeah. Before we get into that, I got some babies to deliver. They're cherubs. I am not...
Deliver the babies!
We did get something out of it, though.
Is that the little, like, golden coffins are for?
Yes.
Yeah. Alright. But yeah, what you were saying before about having dealt with, you know, lack of respect and stuff like that, and... I do kind of want to point out that in my experience, I will say, you do kind of have to be patient. Yes. With a lot of people. And it gets old. And that's the thing, right? It does get very old, like, and there are some times when, understandably, patience runs out. Yes. But, like, the most important thing, like, I try to tend to remember is to take things with grace and approach things with patience, because a lot of that, like, people making ignorant comments, a lot of it isn't even intentionally malicious. Yeah. It comes from a place of ignorance. Yeah. And I don't mean to say, like, ignorant as an insult, just, like, general ignorance. Like, they don't know. Yeah. So... I've had a lot of conversations with people about being trans and transmasculine, even about, like, bisexuality and stuff like that, where, you know, they have a certain viewpoint, like, ew, it's gross, I don't understand it, or I think it's weird, and you sit down, you have a dialogue with this person, they go, okay, maybe maybe I didn't think this through. Maybe
Yeah.
I am not thinking about it from a perspective of somebody who's lived through it, and maybe I'm listening to other people's opinions on the matter. So it's like you do kind of have to pause and reflect and, you know, talk to people, well, and most importantly, people who are willing to talk about it, but a lot of it does stem from just ignorance. There's no other way to say it. And
like if I may, like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
absolutely.
call myself out a little bit here. You've had those conversations with me in the past.
it's true. It's true. And
I'm not gonna pretend I'm not clean on that whole spiel either. I went a good portion of my life not understanding the whole spiel.
yeah, but it was one of those things where once again you were willing to listen. And that is a factor. Is there are people who are ignorant and they don't want to know. They don't want to know, they don't have any interest in it, and they are comfortable sitting in their ignorance.
Yeah.
And those people, I don't even want to call them a wash. I don't want to call them lost causes, because nobody's ever truly a lost cause. But it's more about LGBT acceptance, especially like trans acceptance, is about finding people who, I don't know how to phrase this in a nice way, who don't know that they want to learn, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that kind of nails it, because
Yeah.
like that goes into another thing that I've actually expressed in on this series.
Yes.
Is like I did a whole episode about the idea of love and patience.
Yes.
And like that not just like applies to people who are actually willing to like hear
Yeah.
about you know, the LGBT community, or like just that whole like aspect in general.
Mm-hmm.
It does apply to those who are a part of the LGBT community itself as well, because yeah,
Yes.
you do have to practice a lot of patience. You do
Yes.
have to practice a lot of like grace and mercy, because, you know, people are not going to necessarily understand. I was one of them.
And another thing too is you have to practice a lot of patience and understanding even within your own community.
Yes.
Which is something I've discussed with a lot of people about, and they almost seem confused when I talk about that. Like, you don't join the LGBT community and everybody's on the same page and they all love each other. That is not the case. It is a huge community full of various different identities, various different people from different backgrounds, and because of that, you have a lot of diametrically opposed opinions
Real quick, by the way.
coming from your own community.
Yeah, real quick, by the way, this is the first time I discovered you could do that with Benedicto. Yeah, I was just doing this and this. I did not know you could do that. I never did a crouch attack with this thing. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good, you're good. But yeah, so it's like, explaining, like, differences between, like, pansexuality and bisexuality.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who still, in the year of our Lord, 2024, are
Amen.
like, bisexual people are just doing it for attention. You're either straight and want brownie points, or you're a gay person in denial, and that's so not true. That's not true at all.
It is not. It is
And
not.
there are some people genuinely in our own community who believe things like that. So it is kind of a constant test of patience.
Yeah.
And again, you do kind of have to take a breather and like assess. Some people just don't know.
Yeah.
Or the arguments I hear about bisexuality versus pansexuality.
Mm-hmm.
One I hear all the time is bisexuality is transphobic.
Yeah.
Because there's only two genders. There's man and woman, and bisexual doesn't include anybody else in between. And that is not true, for the record. Just as pansexuality is not transphobic or biphobic. The way I look at it is, being LGBT is about a lot of self-reflection and self-identifying and sitting and having a lot of really hard conversations with yourself. And is there a lot of overlap between certain identities? Sure, but the distinction matters to some people, and if it matters to them, that's the end of the discussion.
Yeah.
You let it go.
And that's the thing. That's the other thing about it that like really drives me personally up a wall when it comes to that whole like ideal.
Yes.
Is that if this person wants to identify as this, or this person happens to like this, what does that have to do with you?
Exactly.
Like, why does that suddenly matter to someone who is not going to be involved in this relationship in any way, shape, or form whatsoever?
Yeah.
You know? It's just like, it's just like, okay, this person, like, it's kind of in the same realm. Oh, this person does not believe in, this person does not believe in Jesus. Why are you insulted by that? Just, that's their rhetoric. And is there a reason I should have gone up that way?
I have no idea.
Huh.
You know, it's interesting that you bring up, like, it's their business if they don't believe in Jesus, because I think being religious is a very introspective and personal experience, and maybe maybe I risk a really spicy take here. I think there's a lot more in common with discovering your identity as an LGBT person and discovering who you are spiritually.
Honestly, yes.
I think there is, because when I said that being LGBT requires a lot of introspection and a lot of self-reflection and asking yourself a lot of really hard questions. Mm-hmm. You know, to sort of figure out who you are. The same can be said for your relationship with God and your relationship with Jesus.
Absolutely, especially because, again, that goes back to, like, previous, like, lessons that I've talked about in the past on this series, is that just because, like, a lot of people tend to treat Christianity as like, oh, everyone should get in on this, but the Bible specifically states time and time again that it's supposed to be a personal thing.
Exactly.
It is a relationship between you and big man upstairs. No one else needs to get involved.
Exactly.
The Bible even goes out of its way to, like, condemn public prayer, because usually public prayer is coupled with the ideal of, oh, I want people to know that I am Christian. I want people to know that I worship God because I am better than them.
Yes,
no,
exactly.
That should not be the case.
Mm-hmm. And it's really funny you bring up that, because something I see a lot from, again, fairly ignorant people is, queer people are always shoving it down your throat.
They aren't.
They're always shoving it down your throat, how gay they are and how trans they are. And I'm like, obviously, sort of looping back to you saying that I have problems with this, obviously I'm not shoving it down everybody's throat, because every time I mention it, people are like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, I will correct people on the proper signifier, and they're like, oh my god, I didn't know. I'm like, well, clearly I'm not shoving it down people's throats, because people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I always find that sort of, like, argument really funny, because most, you, obviously, too, we have a very large friend group of people in the Alphabet Mafia, in the Skittles people community.
The zesty straight French fry horde.
The zesty straight French fry horde.
Yeah.
And the zesty straight and his crinkle cut friends. So we'll call him the zesty straight and his crinkle cut friends. And how often, genuinely, do you're sitting there as our token straight friends sit around and all of us just sit and talk and go, gay, gay, homosexual, gay? Almost never?
I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a hot take here. I have a lot of friends who are gay, who are straight, who are trans, who are, like, you know, bi, ace. I tend to attract a lot of ace people, I've noticed. Apparently, I'm married to 3 of them.
Cool thing about that is, sort of going back to the whole ignorance thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot about asexuality that is really nuanced and introspective, and I think because of LGBT acceptance, a lot more people are able to sit with those feelings and sit with, you know, new terms and signifiers like demisexual, for example. I know so many people who are like, I didn't ever really see myself as being, you know, fitting into this label, but turns out that there is a way to describe who I am and how I feel. And part of that is education, and it's talking about people, and it's sharing experiences.
Do you have any idea the conversations that I've had with ComicFoil about that?
Oh, absolutely.
Because
the
dude pretty much came out as, like, ace, like, a few years ago, right?
Yeah.
And he talked about the struggle that he had in his mind of, like, am I really ace, or am I just, like, you know, I'm not trying to do this for attention or anything. I don't really see myself as this because I'm not sex repulsed. I'm not a romantic. I have a wife that I love.
Yeah.
Like, that, he told me that verbatim, and it's like, no, like, being married to, like, Amber, by the way,
Yeah.
who's also ace, mind you, just a very different kind of ace, put a lot of it into perspective for me.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, no, there are different, just gonna say right now, guys, just as there are different levels of, I guess you could say, like, mental illness. Like,
okay.
not to make that,
No.
not to make that comparison
I'll
one for one.
walk with you to this pier.
Like, or mental difficulties, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Like, just as there are different spectrums of that, just as there are different spectrums of personality, just as there are different denominations of Christianity or religions, there's different levels of ace. There's different levels of bi. There's different levels of, like, lesbian and, like, gay and, like, homosexuality or, like, you know, bisexuality in general. It is as complicated as the Technicolor rainbow that represents it.
And that's kind of the beauty of it, is when you sit and when you have these discussions with yourself, about, you know, where am I? How do I feel about myself? Where do I fit into this puzzle? There are some people who are incredibly queer who just go, I just am.
Yeah.
Maybe a label doesn't even fit me. I just am. And that's kind of the beauty of it. And you can't ever come to those realizations unless you have those discussions with yourself.
Yeah. And
it is, you know, I was thinking about, because I was explaining to you that at my job, I sort of weirdly act as a de facto preacher some days.
Yeah.
And that I read scripture, and I was reading through sort of this, like, devotional passage about quiet reflection in your relationship with God, right?
Yes.
And, like, taking the time to sit and breathe and enjoy existence and nature and seeing God in the world and seeing God in the mundanity, in the little things.
Yeah.
And sort of learning to cherish those kinds of little things. And those are kind of the same pauses and quiet reflections you do have to do with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And to sit and discover, like, it took me a long time to figure out where I sat in the community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I thought I was pansexual for a minute, and while there are certainly people who are like, that label absolutely sounds like you, it didn't sit with me. It just didn't feel right. So I kept with sticking with pansexual, but also when it comes to being trans, I sat and I was like, non-binary doesn't feel right. And I talked to myself and I thought about myself and I sat and I reflected and I'm like, trans man doesn't feel right either. So for a really long time, I didn't know what I thought I was. And then my friend Veronica started talking about trans masculinity versus trans femininity and how they're not the same as being a trans man or a trans woman.
And it just kind of clicked.
And the more I thought about it, I was like, that sounds like me. That sounds like who I am. Not a trans man, but trans masculine.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
And again, like, that goes back to the comparison I made, is like, there are different, like, levels. There are different, like, variations.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not as black and white as many people, and I'm going to call them out, many Christians would like it to be.
Exactly.
I do think that a lot of it does have to do with the idea of, like, oh my god, this is far too complicated. I don't want to think about it. I just want things to be simple. But that's betraying that's giving a huge betrayal to just the conversation as a whole.
Exactly. You know, and life isn't simple.
Yeah, like, are Christians going to come and sit here and say that Christianity is simple? Hell no. Hell no, it's not.
Exactly.
I reject that. Like, wholeheartedly, because no way in hell is Christianity simple. Otherwise, we wouldn't have scholars who spend their entire lives studying it.
Yep. And you know, I'm gonna say it, being a good person can often be a challenge.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's not simple to just be like, you know, they sit down and preach the gospel and say, do good, die great. It's never that easy.
And it's funny, too, because it's like, you know, one of the biggest factors of that is the story of Jesus, right?
Yes.
Because Jesus walked among... Oh, jeez.
Kishki.
It's all good. Kishki's being a little goober. But, like, it's like Jesus walked among men. He lived life as a human.
Yeah.
Do you think it was easy for him?
No.
No, it was not! The entire idea of Jesus being a human is for him to understand why it is so difficult for us sinners, us people, us mortals, to live in this world, and why it's so difficult for, like, you know, for people to live up to the standards of the perfect God. He knows full well how difficult it is.
That was sick as fuck, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's that's an execution.
Yeah. I just thought I'd point that out.
Christ almighty, that enemy in particular is tough.
Oof.
It's okay. We're fine having this conversation, so
Yeah,
like, I'm good just keeping going. Plus, it gave me a chance to get that one treasure that I missed.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out that I was like, oh, that animation was slick.
Oh yeah,
Anyway.
like the executions in this game are really, really cool.
Yeah. But,
Okay, actually, I'm going to switch up my prayers because I think that's what's giving me difficulty. So I have a... Yeah, I have Javera of the Poison of Jealousy. Chime of the Twisted One. Let's go with Peteneras of the Burial of Lights. And for this, I'm actually going to go with... yeah, I think Bleeding Miracle is a little bit better for this one. Alright.
you know, sort of keeping on the topic of, like, Christianity and stuff like that. Because I do see, you know, Christian rhetoric thrown around a lot about, you know, LGBT people.
Which is ironic because, like, you were saying earlier that apparently the LGBT community shoves it in our faces. Guys, do you have any idea how often Christians shove that rhetoric in other people's faces?
Well, and the thing I kind of wanted to express is that I think those people, I think this is kind of important, at least in my mind, to remember. I feel like those people, they are LARPing Christianity. No. Like, I'm serious. Walk with me.
No. Like, please, like, continue because I'm liking this train of thought.
They are LARPing Christianity because, you know, you have so many, like, allegedly God-fearing people who hate the gays because somebody on a news station that won't be named told them to. And they don't pause and ever have those deep conversations with themselves about love and respect and what Jesus would want and what Jesus would think. And it's kind of, again, almost like the aesthetics and the facsimile of being Christian. Because I've read the Bible. I wouldn't consider myself a practicing Christian today, but I do consider myself to be a relatively spiritual person. I still try to be, you know, as on a morally good and helpful path as possible. I try to do good every day at work. God knows, you know, at my job, I need patience.
Oh my god, yeah.
So when I see these kinds of people who are like, oh, well, you know, God hates the F slur, I'm like, does he?
He doesn't.
Does he? Or did somebody tell you to feel that way?
Literally.
Because I feel like a proper Christian who would go would say, I don't understand it, but I don't have to.
Yeah. Like, you guys, you don't even have to understand, like, LGBT or, like, that whole spiel. You don't have to. Just, if you don't like it, keep your mouth shut.
If you don't like it,
You have that right to not like it. Don't go after them. Don't disrespect. Like, at the end of the day, don't disrespect anyone.
And that's why I say they're like LARPing Christianity, because also too the chuds on Twitter who are like, you know, throwing out anti-LGBT slurs and saying like that they hope they die and this and that and the other thing. I'm like, and they say it in the name of Jesus. I'm like, you've not ever set a single foot in a fucking church.
Mm-hmm. Because, like, yeah.
Like, not once. No shot.
I want to bring something up, by the way, too, because
yes.
John Fugelsang, God bless his heart, was actually asked recently, you know, what verses in the Bible tell you to love, you know, the LGBT community, and he was like, hold my beer, and listed, like, at least 10 verses in the Bible, and all of them have something to do with loving thy neighbor as thyself and emphasizing that is the greatest commandment.
Exactly.
Like, Jesus has repeated that. The Bible has repeated that 10 times at least to emphasize, hey, this is something that y'all should be doing. Because, gonna be real with you right now, call me blasphemous if you want to. If Jesus were alive today, he'd be at those pride parades shaking every single one of those people's hands.
There's God, it's a poem. It's a poem by a gay it's a poem by a gay man. It's called Jesus at the Gay Bar. And it sounds really silly, but it's about like this young man who's like dancing, and he sees Jesus, and he falls down at his knees and begs Jesus to touch the hem of his robe to save him, to purge him of his homosexuality. And Jesus responds by saying, I should be washing your feet. There is nothing broken about you.
Yes. Yes.
So it's like, it's a beautiful poem. If you can find it and read it, I genuinely recommend it.
I can already like tell you right now, yes, he would do this.
So, but that is the Jesus that I imagine. This Jesus that comes down and is like, you're fucking the wrong people. You're not procreating. I'm like, no, those are the residents at my job. Yeah. Not Jesus.
Yeah, because like, hey, let's remember, Jesus, when he was on Earth, he was best friends with a tax collector, a schemer, like someone who was cheating the public.
A prostitute.
He was friends with a prostitute. He was friends with a like pathological liar. One of his friends betrayed him at the cross, and he never stopped loving every single one of those people.
Yes.
Why can't we do that?
And again, that's why I say like a lot of these people are LARPing Christianity.
I'm gonna have to remember that, because that's actually a really good way to put it.
You are a Christian LARPer, not a somebody who genuinely takes the word of Jesus in seriousness.
All right, we got some dialogue coming up, so let's see what we got here. The mother said, follow the heartbeats that herald the birth.
Penitente, tened a vuestro bien recibir este obsequio, que una cándida voz en sueños me pidió que os entregara. Una voz cuyo dueño siempre desconoceré.
The key of the pilgrim.
Oh, corazón que descendéis del cielo, ¿qué queréis de nosotros?
Oh? Oh, what's going on here?
The game said no. We have to stop.
Oh, okay, it's the same area, but the chapel's changed.
Oh, that's fun.
Okay, so the key of the pilgrim, gift of the anonymous pilgrim. It opens the first of the 5 of the cages in the chapel of the 5 doves. It happened right there in that sacred chapel. The miracle itself melted glass into an urn and dressed it with gold, so it could properly display the inner body of that pious young man, the one that was chosen by the divine to witness every event brought by the return of the faith. The one that gave his life, and who was preserved incorruptible so his testament would remain immortal. The testimony of the new birth of the miracle. And hence why the penitent one is revived to stop the miracle yet again. Alright, so can I exit anywhere? I can't, we're trapped here. Alright,
nowhere to go but up, baby!
Oh, hello.
El milagro es misericordioso con nosotros y le da a esta sombra el derecho a hablar. Nunca comprenderé qué encumbradas razones me eligieron para presenciar y narrar los hechos en los que el milagro intentaba regresar a nosotros, pues largas eras han pasado desde que nos había abandonado. Veo que se cumplió mi petición, y aquel bienaventurado peregrino os entregó mi presente. Abrid las jaulas cuyas llaves fueron robadas. Paloma, que del azabache tomáis el color. Abandonad ahora vuestra cárcel de oro.
And now we have to rescue the 5 doves. Yeah, this game's far from over, is it?
Yeah. You know, I gotta be honest, I don't always agree with religion on some ethical things, but they really did pop off with the iconography. They really did absolutely pop off with the aesthetics.
Oh yeah,
so,
absolutely.
You know.
No, like, say what you will. Like, I actually would not mind having more games based on Abrahamic religions, because holy smoke, dude.
Yeah, this game is gorgeous.
I love this series.
Yeah.
The father said, the 4 envoys wrapped my body in soft linen cloths. And the mother said, follow the heartbeats that herald the birth. Alright, so I'm assuming for us to move forward, we have to find the other 4 keys to the rest of those cages.
Yeah.
So, here goes nothing. Yeah, I do, like, real quick, by the way, guys, like, Gage can't hear any of this because, I don't have a headphone splitter, but, like, I wish, they could hear the, music that's going on in this game, because holy smoke.
Very faintly hear it a little bit through your headphones. Like, I can hear, like, the voices and the sound effects, and I can very faintly hear the music.
Yeah, like, I've expressed this already, but, like, one of my favorite things about this game is the fact that, like, they did a whole, like, Spanish dub of, like, the entire, like, script of the game. And it's, like, it's not just, like, oh, Latino Spanish. No, this game was, like, developed in Spain, so they use, like, Spaniard, Spain, Spanish, which is super cool and, like, really, really awesome to listen to.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta get up higher to get through that. So yeah, like, continuing with, like, the conversation, right?
We got distracted by the game we were playing.
No fooling. 5,000 Tears of Atonement. Okay, I'll take that. Oh.
Well, that looks like a boss arena.
Oh, yeah, this might be a thing. You know what? I'm gonna play it safe and go back to that save point, because if I die, I have a long trek back.
Yeah, you should, yeah. You should probably go back and save. But, sort of picking up where we left off.
Yeah.
That's kind of, to me, why I don't pay too much mind to, like, assholes on Twitter. Let's call a spade a spade.
Oh,
assholes on Twitter.
You don't need to be gay or lesbian or whatever to have people be an asshole to you on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's not to say that, like, that doesn't perpetuate it a little bit.
In this case, you know, dudes with anime girl PFPs citing, you know, old gospel at you. I'm like, I ignore that because, again, the best way I would call them is Christian larpers.
Not to bring up
until Elon Musk hit our likes recently, I'm like, I've seen your likes tab and there's nothing Christianly going on in those likes. All right.
not to bring this conversation back again, but I'm totally bringing this conversation back again. This kind of reminds me a little bit of, like, the craziness with the Bridget/Vivian debacle.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
it all ties in.
Same rhetoric.
Yeah, it ties in.
Like, absolutely. And it's stupid. Like, it's absolutely stupid.
I was talking to, Sanat, my partner, about this in the car, because, news just broke out that a famous garbage man, Twitch streamer, DnDearest.
Oh, yeah.
He's been on Kick. He got banned on Twitch a couple years ago, but would never say why. That's the opposite direction where we need to go. We need to go up, not down. Anyway, but nobody knew why he got banned from Twitch, and there was a lawsuit, and, like, even after the lawsuit, like, got dropped, he still would never say why he got banned from Twitch. Turns out DnDearest was using Twitch's chat DM feature to try to meet up with minors at TwitchCon. And I'd like to point out that DnDearest was very aggressively anti-trans and was anti-trans to push they're hurting and grooming our kids rhetoric, which something that I kind of look at when I see that stuff, especially, and this ties into, like, the Bridget and Vivian stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, walk with me to this pier.
Oh, yeah, by all means.
Every accusation is confession.
Whoops.
You know, Dr. Disrespect was on Kick talking about, you know, the trans plague and grooming our kids and hurting our kids, and only to find out that that was the reason he was banned from Twitch. Again, every accusation, a confession. And that is why, generally, I tend to ignore those kinds of people who are like, you know, groomer, nasty, and you look in their likes and it's all content, we'll call it, of Anya Forger. So, it's...
like classic Ice Cube situation, like check yourself before you wreck yourself, man.
Exactly. And when it comes to the Vivian stuff, I kept seeing that rhetoric about grooming. That's the word, and I apologize if using this word is a YouTube no word.
It's fine.
But
like,
you know,
like, on this series we tell it like it is.
Exactly. You see that word thrown out a lot about grooming, and you saw that a lot in reference to Bridget. Is that, oh, Bridget's trans now because she was groomed by her parents into being a girl. Without realizing that Bridget's Strive story is, looping it all the way back around to what we were talking about at the beginning, her story is the epitome of a trans narrative about self-reflection.
Very.
About those quiet moments of stepping back and going, who am I? What do I want? How do I want to be? How do I want to be seen?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you wouldn't know that unless you have had those conversations and had that journey of discovery yourself. And when it comes to Vivian, you see that thrown a lot around with it's indoctrinating our kids. And I'm just like, I don't think, you know, there's not a point in Mario where Vivian turns to the camera and says, go on HRT, it's great. She's just herself.
Yeah.
She's just existing. And that's how it is with most people who are trans or, you know, gay, lesbian, bisexual, ace, you know, somewhere on the trans identity spectrum, like being non-binary. Nobody is coming for your children. Most of these people just want to go to work in the morning.
Yeah.
I just want to go buy my Sizzly at Wawa and get my Monster Energy and go to work and enjoy my day. And when I'm done with my day, I want to go hang out with my family or my friends.
I want to do my 9 to 5 so I can go home and drink my coffee and, like, play video games.
And that's just how most queer people are.
Mm-hmm.
There is no agenda. There is no forcing it down your throats. There is no pushing it on you. Are they pushing it on you, or are these people just existing? Are they just enjoying their life?
Yeah.
Which is maybe something that Jesus would want you to shut up and start doing. Enjoy yours.
Mm-hmm. Like, let he who judge be the one to cast the first stone.
He who is without sin.
Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Do not cast ye pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and then turn and rend you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you got nothing nice to say, shut up. Like, legitimately, just shut up.
Stay in your lane, mind your own business.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of it, too, is, a bit of rhetoric I see a lot is that, people like that do this because it's self-hatred. And it's like self-misery.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for some people that is possible. I think that's a factor.
That reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever watched Hellsing Ultimate Abridged.
I've seen a fair bit of it.
There's this part at the end where Alucard has to, like, free his soul, right?
Yeah.
Alucard has to free his soul, but in order to do that, in order to get out, he has to help them out, and it's, like, the, like, vast amount of, like, souls that he has consumed over, like, God knows how long. And, he basically was playing therapist for a bunch of souls that were tormented and trapped within him, right?
Yeah.
And, he was like, turns out that a good third of them were just in the closet.
Yeah.
Like, when I see a guy, like, kiss another guy, I don't know, man, it just makes me angry. And he's like, have you ever considered that perhaps you are angry because you couldn't be one of those people? Because if you did, then other people might look at you differently? Oh, shit! Yup. You want to make out? I don't date patients.
So, no, like, Oops.
Oh.
I guess we can't go down that way.
No. Yeah, I'm trying to find the way forward here.
It is, and I will say it is kind of it's not something that a lot of people in the community like to sort of imply, like, aha, you're miserable on Twitter and you hate gay people because you're secretly gay or you're secretly trans. Because the polar opposite of that is, no, there are some people out there who are just legitimately angry and hateful.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, also it's that, you know, self-reflection aspect. You can't really force an identity onto people. They have to come to terms with that themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I do think to a degree, I have met people. I have spoken with people. I'm not going to name them, obviously.
Yeah.
But I am friends with people who were homophobic or transphobic, who are now a part of the community.
Guilty as charged. Like, I'm not, like, I myself am not gay, or, like, I'm gonna tell you right, guys, right now, like, I'm straight as an arrow.
Mm-hmm.
But y'all seen what I cosplay in.
Yeah, you know, like I said, it's when you come to those, you know, realizations yourself, however you wanna set yourself apart. If you don't feel comfortable with certain LGBT labels, that's totally cool. You don't have to identify as part of the community if you don't want to. I think I had a little conversation with Comic about something like this. About, like, do I feel right being a part of the community? And sometimes I don't, but I'm not going to tell other people who are in my similar situation, no, you're not allowed.
That's true.
Because that is up to them to decide, not you. Just as deciding if you want to be a part of it, it's up to you too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm not ever going to be like, oh, aha, dumb Twitter trolls, you just feel that way because you're secretly trans. No, I'm never going to do that. Because sometimes,
especially because that's also just oversimplifying the concept.
That's oversimplifying the concept. And sometimes people, it's self-hatred. Other times it's just they're a bastard.
Yeah. There are legit terrible people out there, and that's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah. And I'm really glad for those who have come into themselves, who have discovered their identity, or even if it turns out that they weren't LGBT and just realized, wow, I sucked.
Hi!
I sucked. I had no friends, and I was miserable, and I was taking it out on, let's be honest, the lowest hanging fruit right now.
Yeah. And, like, I speaking for myself, right? I was, like, I was that way, not because I was necessarily, like, again, speaking as someone who is not gay, or, like, I'm straight as an arrow, as I've expressed.
But you are honorary. But you are honorary.
But I don't make that decision.
we
like,
grant you the title of honorary.
But, like, speaking as someone who did, like, deal with, like, or go through that whole, like, character arc,
yeah.
I guess you could call it. A lot of it was because of my parents and the household I grew up in. I grew up in a very Spanish or Latino Christian home, and they're not exactly the modicum of allyship when it comes to such topics, if you know what I'm saying.
No, I understand. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Most people, I would wager, even if you are familiar with me, probably don't know. My dad came out as gay when I was about 6.
This I did not know.
Yes, my mom and dad divorced when I was about 6 years old because he was gay and just couldn't sort of live the facade anymore.
Huh.
So for me, that was just sort of life. And this was back in 1998. Not to date myself, but so when I was 6 back in the late 90s, not exactly the best time for gay people. Especially gay men, because that was coming off of the heels of a big crisis that happened. Involving a lot of gay men who died. I don't know. It started in the late 80s. You might have heard of it. So it wasn't exactly like the greatest time for me, but I kind of live in the opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Of that, you know, queerness was kind of normal growing up. Like, I think some members of my family took it understandably pretty hard, but for me, I was 6. When my mom came and sat me down and explained the situation, I went, oh, that's nice. Because I was a child. Like, it's sort actually, of just like a very innocent, like, okay, dad likes boys. That's nice.
It's actually kind of remarkable how, like, much more accepting children can be when it comes to that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, I didn't know boys can like boys, and it's like, oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, like, as long as you're not hurting anyone, like, it's totally acceptable. And they're like, cool.
Yeah.
You know?
They're just like, oh, neat. And so, you know, sometimes there is the argument for sometimes that sort of level of disdain and ignorance is taught.
It is. It absolutely is.
It's taught and not learned, because I do think kids inherently do kind of just, I don't want to say they love everyone, but I think they are naturally inquisitive and they are naturally interested, and they are interested in a way that is judgment-free because their worldview has not been colored yet.
The term I would probably use to describe it is curiosity.
Yes. Yes. They are curious about the world in a very I don't want to say uncritical, but kind of uncritical way.
Unbiased.
Yeah, unbiased. That's a better way to put it. They are curious about the world in a very unbiased way. So for me, I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's just, all right, word. It was, you know, them being separated was an adjustment.
Obviously.
But I got more disdain and disgust because of who my dad was growing up as a kid.
Ugh.
Because of, like, you know, the parents of my friends found out.
Mm-hmm.
And the parents were like, oh, you can't hang out with them anymore.
As if it's the kid's fault.
Yeah, exactly. As if I'm the one. And the thing is my dad didn't even live in the same house with me at the time. Like, he had, like, his own apartment, and mom stayed in, like, the house. So, like, that was a really, really weird adjustment for me as a kid, because I'm like, what? Suddenly, like, I'm not allowed to hang out with my friends anymore.
Mm.
And that is when I started to learn that, you know, as I got older, as people started to respond more negative to my dad, and even me, because as I got older, I think I realized I was bisexual when I was 13.
Okay.
Particularly, I had always thought girls were really, really pretty, and I liked boys because I knew I was supposed to, and I did. Like, don't mistake me, I did.
Yeah.
But I was like, I feel different about girls, and then when I was 13, I went to a friend's house, and she showed me a Yuri anime from, like, the early 2000s, and I went, I get it now. I get it now. Okay.
Like, I'm gonna be real with you. Like, I don't know. I'm not even sure if that's, like, purely a bisexual thing, because, like, I'm a straight man, but I'm not gonna sit here and not think a man is handsome if he is.
Yeah, well, yeah, and like, I didn't really, I learned what being bisexual was, like, in my freshman year of high school.
Uh-huh.
So, like, when I was in middle school, I was like, okay, so this is a thing. And I don't know how to, like, label it, because, gosh, this was, like, in the early 2000s. This was in, like, 2002, 2003, 2004. Yeah. So, and then I, like, learned of what bisexuality was, and I was like, that sounds like me. That sounds like what I am. And, like, growing up, kids didn't hate me because I found out I was bisexual. They just hated me because of my dad. And then when I found out I was bisexual in end of middle school, early of high school, that's when people started treating me different on top of that.
And you were a smart enough kid to realize, hey, like, there's a pattern here.
There is a pattern here, absolutely.
And that's a darn shame.
It is. And, you know, I stayed quiet about it for a really, really long time.
Mm-hmm.
I probably didn't be more openly bisexual until college, even though I had known forever. And I had known forever because I remember I had told a close friend of mine in middle school at the time that I think that I'm this, and I think that I might like girls too, and they stopped talking to me for a week.
Wow.
And it kind of broke me a little bit, and after that happened, I kind of lied to them, and I was like, no, I'm not. I think I thought about it more because I just didn't want to lose a friend at the time.
That sucks.
Because I was already a really weird kid.
Right.
I was already, like, I was the art kid. I was into anime back when liking anime wasn't cool.
How the times have changed.
Yeah, how the times have changed. So I kind of was just like, no, it's fine. That little phase is over. Even though it definitely, decidedly wasn't over. And it arguably got much worse as I got older. And, you know, I kind of sat with that, like, resentment, and I realized that hate is taught.
Yeah. No, it very much is.
It's very much taught.
Like...
Because when I came out to people and they started treating me different... I had not changed as a person. I was still the same Gage.
Yeah.
I was still your friend. I was still the person that we'd play, you know, PS2 games with or Pokemon Coliseum on the N64. But I had mentioned something kind of insignificant about me, and people had decided that that was bad.
Yeah. And, like, it's kind of funny, too. Like, last bit that we can talk about because we're running out of time here.
Oh.
Is that whole nature versus nurture thing is also an argument that a lot of people really, really like to bring up.
Yeah.
When it comes to just the general consensus of homosexuality.
Yeah.
And the LGBT community. But you made a really, really good point in that a lot of it really does apply more to just the general idea of prejudice.
Yeah.
Of hate.
Mm-hmm.
Of discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
You're not naturally hateful. You're not naturally discriminatory. You are not naturally prejudiced. That is something that is taught.
It is a learned behavior.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's something to keep in mind, people. At the end of the day, like, people are just want to be people.
Yeah.
Like, and if they're not hurting you, and if they're not hurting anyone else, mind your own business.
Exactly.
Let them be what they want to be. You know?
Yeah.
That's really all it boils down to.
I think it's probably the most Christianly sort of send-off that we can end on is remember that hate is learned and remember where your biases maybe come from.
And remember that Jesus said to the people, love thy neighbor as thyself.
There are no asterisks, there are no caveats.
No. It is literally within the 10 Commandments. And he said himself that along with loving your God loving your God and your Lord loving your Lord your God, which by the way really only applies to you if you're within that rhetoric anyway, are the two greatest commandments that are to be established within the Christian rhetoric itself. Mm-hmm. But I think even if you're not a Christian, the whole loving thy neighbor as thyself, don't spread hate and everything, and the rest of the 10 Commandments, like don't steal, don't covet, don't kill, don't lie, I think that's something that generally all of us can agree upon.
Those are just basic good people rules to follow.
You would think, right?
Yeah.
So before we end off, one thing I forgot to do is that I believe I got a statue during our trek, and it is one of these. Where are you? Right there, the demented one. Increases the duration of Blood Pact, which is specific for Ruega de Alba. Back off, away from me, leave me, can't you see the maggots? The wretched grubs that gnaw at my skin, craving my entrails and blood. Bring me the torch, let them taste fire, screamed the madman. He pounced at a guard and took the torch that would moments later set his body in flames, turning him into a living pyre that howled down the hallways of that grim gaol. So yeah, with that, I should be able to increase the power of Ruega. That being said, I don't really use Blood Pact all too often. I really should. But that we can like look into in a bit. As for you, I think the Fervent Kiss I have to take back to that lady whose hand is transparent in the church. I mean, there's a lot of churches here, but you know. Alright, do we have anything for you?
De vuestra última visita, penitente. Debéis saber que un hombre ciego soy. Sin embargo, el milagro no me ha sumido en las tinieblas. Su divina luz, más que nunca, resplandece en mi interior. Un ígneo fulgor que perfila con manso escrúpulo las facciones de la señora. En el preciso instante en que fuimos testigos del acto más prodigioso que habríamos de presenciar en nuestras humildes vidas. Todos los que allí estábamos nos vimos cegados por una repentina luz. Un súbito destello que nos obligó a apartar la mirada, abandonándonos en completa oscuridad. El remanente de aquel resplandor dejó marcado en mí un piadoso rostro, primoroso en sus formas y proporciones de la señora. No podría olvidarlo jamás, pues había quedado marcado con aquel fuego perpetuado para siempre dentro de mis propios ojos.
Isn't it cool listening to that?
Yeah, it is cool.
I love
cool.
the Spanish dub of this game. So yeah, I have 11 marks of martyrdom, and I think I'm going to take advantage of this, increasing my altarpiece capacity.
El retablo de vuestra espalda tiene ahora más capacidad. Aquí os esperaré hasta que reunáis más marcas del martirio para ampliar vuestro retablo.
Alright, let me actually check
Que las
something.
manos del milagro os guíen, penitente.
So if we go back to our statues, yes, right there. I might have enough to unlock the rest of them. 4. No, I only have enough for 2 more.
That's almost.
Well, no, just the 2 that I just
Oh,
got. Because
okay.
I think each of the...
Oh, it increases.
Yeah, I think it
okay.
increases by 1 every time I buy
Oh,
one.
okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
That being said, let's go ahead and open the Altarpiece of Favors. This is going to be the last thing we're going to do here, guys. So, with the Choirmaster and the Bishop, we have the Resonance of Cierso's Favor, which increases any source of elemental damage. But what I want to do instead... We're going to go ahead. I've been kind of like, doing a thing where like I want to increase the power of all my weapons because I've been switching between them throughout this entire episode. Like I'm trying to like utilize the strengths of each one more. So let's start with the Skull Mark. We're gonna go with the Punished One and the Ecstatic Novice. Does that not work? Oh, no. We gotta go here. So, the Punished One. And... recovers health after an execution. Increases the damage inflicted when life is low. Aw. I think Puppy's having a nightmare. Oh, she woke up. Okay, so yeah. For the first one, we're gonna go with the Punished One and Viridiana. So, recovers health after an execution. Increases the strength of Rey Guadalba, which gives us Jalok's favor. So that increases Rey Guadalba's strength. Next up, we're gonna go with... not this one, but I believe it's... this one, yeah. So we're gonna go with the Pilgrim and the Partisan. Partisan increases the window of time to perform a block, and this reduces Verdadera Destreza's loss to 1 when... Oh, okay. Verdadera Destreza is the state that I enter when using, when using Sarmiento and Centella. So that'll give us Leveche's favor. So on this last one, we're gonna go to, I believe, this one? No. I believe it's the first one. It is. So we're gonna go with, yeah, the Ecstatic Novice and the Scribe. So that increases fervor when generated when from attacking enemies and increases stun power. That gives us Gregal's favor, which increases Veredicto's strength. So now we have a setup here that increases every single one of our weapons' power. So that's what we're going to go for a test run next time. So, thank you guys for joining us for Let's Play Blasphemous 2 Episode 9. I am the Green Scorpion, and...
I am Gage Sheikah Arts.
And seriously, thank you for joining me for this one.
Yeah, thank you for having me
that
on.
was really, really cool, just having that whole conversation. Like,
yeah.
I've been wanting to do an episode about, like, a dedicated episode to the LGBT community, and, like, since it's Pride Month, I was like, okay, yeah, this is perfect. But, gosh, it was nice to have someone to talk to, because, like... I was talking to ComicFoil about this, right?
It can be a lot.
It's It's not just that, but it's also, like... shockingly easier to kind of like quantify my thoughts when I have someone to bounce off of.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
No, this is a really nice episode to go through. So next time though, it's just gonna be me and my lucid tones, everybody. So looking forward to that. So once again, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Dios le bendiga.